Let me ask you something. If someone can go months without calling you, without texting you, without checking if you're okay, what do you think they're really saying? Because silence isn't empty. Silence is loud, and today we're going to listen to it. Let me tell you something real. When someone disappears from your life for months, they're not busy. They're not figuring things out. They're not confused. They've decided. See, life gets hard for all of us. Silence is often misunderstood as uncertainty, as if the person on the other side is standing still, thinking, weighing options, or trying to find the right moment. But silence is not a pause button on intention. It is movement in a direction. Every day someone chooses not to reach out. They are actively choosing distance. Confusion looks noisy, questions, attempts, explanations back and forth. Silence is clean. Silence is simple. Silence says, I've decided not to engage without having to speak a word. And the hardest part is that silence feels passive, but it isn't. It's deliberate. It's controlled. It's a decision repeated daily until it becomes a pattern. People like to hide behind the idea of being overwhelmed, distracted, or unsure because those explanations soften the truth. They make the silence easier to tolerate. But real confusion doesn't last for months without a single check in, a single moment of care, a single sign of effort. When someone truly values you but feels uncertain, they still reach out. They still ask how you are. They still keep the door open. Silence that stretches on isn't uncertainty. It's closure without courage. It's someone choosing comfort over honesty, absence over accountability, and distance over connection. Silence also protects the person who chooses it. It allows them to avoid responsibility. If they said, I don't want this, they would have to face the consequences of that truth. They would have to see your reaction, feel your disappointment, and carry the weight of their decision. Silence lets them escape all of that. It keeps them safe while leaving you to do the emotional labor alone. You're left wondering, replaying conversations, questioning your worth, searching for meaning in the absence. Meanwhile, they've already made peace with the distance. Silence becomes a shield, not a mistake. What makes silence so powerful is that it feels unfinished. The lack of words creates a vacuum, and humans naturally want to fill it. So you start explaining their behavior for them. You give them grace they didn't ask for. You turn their silence into your responsibility, thinking if you just understand them better, things will make sense. But silence doesn't need interpretation. It doesn't need analysis. It doesn't need patience. It needs recognition. When someone doesn't reach out, they are communicating exactly where you stand in their priorities, even if that truth is uncomfortable to accept. And the most important part is this: silence continues because it works. It gives them control. It keeps you emotionally available without requiring effort from them. As long as you treat silence as confusion, you stay stuck waiting. But the moment you see it for what it is, a decision, you regain your power. Not because they change, but because your perspective does. Silence isn't something happening to you. It's something someone is choosing. And once you understand that, you stop asking why they haven't spoken, and you start asking a more important question: why you're still listening. Time is the most honest currency a person has. You can fake words, you can make promises you never intend to keep. You can perform emotions when it's convenient. But time exposes the truth every single time. People do not find time for what matters to them. They prioritize it. They arrange their lives around it. They adjust. They sacrifice. When someone consistently claims they're too busy to reach out, what they're really saying is that reaching out isn't important enough to compete with everything else in their life. Everyone is busy. Every single person is carrying something: work pressure, family responsibilities, stress, exhaustion. Yet somehow, people still make time to scroll, to laugh, to talk to those they value, to pursue what excites them. Busyness doesn't erase intention. If someone wants to hear your voice, they will create a moment. If someone wants to know how you're doing, they won't let weeks turn into months. Time doesn't disappear, it gets spent exactly where a person wants it to go. The problem is that we often accept "I've been busy" as a full explanation because it sounds reasonable, it sounds mature, it sounds like adulthood. But business doesn't erase basic effort. A short message takes seconds. A check-in doesn't require a free schedule. What it requires is interest. When interest is present, effort follows naturally. When interest fades, excuses multiply, not because the person is malicious, but because they've quietly rearranged their priorities, and you're no longer at the top. What hurts the most is realizing that they had time, just not for you. They lived their life. They laughed. They shared moments. They showed up where it mattered to them. And while you were waiting, hoping, giving the benefit of the doubt, they were already choosing something else. This isn't about blame, it's about clarity. People reveal their values through repetition. When absence becomes consistent, it's no longer accidental, it's alignment. Their life is aligned in a way that doesn't include you. There's also a dangerous habit people fall into. When they care deeply, they minimize their own needs to accommodate someone else's lack of effort. They tell themselves not to be demanding, not to ask for too much, not to expect consistency. But wanting communication isn't asking for the impossible. Wanting effort isn't being needy. Wanting to matter isn't unreasonable. When someone makes you feel like basic connection is too much to ask for, they are slowly training you to accept less than you deserve. Understanding that people make time for what matters is not meant to harden you, it's meant to ground you. It pulls you out of fantasy and into reality. It shifts your focus from waiting for someone to show up to observing whether they already have. Because when someone truly values you, you won't have to remind them of your existence. You won't have to negotiate for attention. You won't have to guess where you stand. Their time will answer that question long before their words ever do. Mixed signals feel confusing, but they're only confusing when you want a different outcome than the one being shown to you. When someone disappears for long stretches, then suddenly reappears with warmth, curiosity, or affection, it creates emotional whiplash. One moment you feel forgotten, the next you feel chosen. That inconsistency keeps you off balance, questioning your instincts and second guessing what you know in your gut. But inconsistency isn't complexity. It's clarity wearing a disguise. People who are genuinely interested don't send mixed signals. They send steady ones. They may not be perfect, but they're present. They don't vanish and reappear as if nothing happened. Mixed signals happen when someone wants the benefits of connection without the responsibility of commitment. They want access without accountability, closeness without consistency. So they give just enough to keep the door open, but never enough to step fully inside. What makes mixed signals powerful is that they activate hope. A message after weeks of silence can feel like proof that you mattered all along. A sudden call can feel like validation, but those moments don't erase the absence that came before them. A spark doesn't replace a foundation. Consistency is the only real evidence of intention, and mixed signals are the absence of that consistency. They are not signs of depth. They are signs of hesitation, or worse, convenience. Mixed signals also shift the emotional burden onto you. You become the one analyzing tone, timing, and meaning. You start asking yourself whether you're expecting too much or misreading things. That mental exhaustion isn't accidental. When someone sends mixed signals, they avoid clarity because clarity would require them to choose. And by not choosing, they keep control. You stay emotionally invested while they remain emotionally uncommitted. There's a difference between someone struggling and someone stringing you along. Struggle comes with transparency. It comes with effort, even when things are hard. Mixed signals come with silence, followed by sudden intensity, followed by disappearance again. That cycle isn't confusion. It's a pattern. And patterns are messages. They tell you what to expect, not what to hope for. When you stop focusing on what they say during their moments of presence and start paying attention to what they do during their absence, everything becomes clearer. Mixed signals don't mean they don't care at all. They mean they don't care enough to show up consistently. And while that truth may be painful, it's also freeing, because once you recognize the message, you no longer have to decode it. When someone goes silent, the first place most people look is inward. You replay conversations, examine your words, question your actions, and wonder what you did wrong. That silence starts to feel like a verdict on your value, as if their absence is evidence that you weren't interesting enough, important enough, or worthy enough to hold their attention. But attention is not a measurement of worth. It's a reflection of capacity, priorities, and choice, and those things belong to them, not you. It's easy to confuse being ignored with being unworthy because humans are wired to seek connection. When someone we care about withdraws, the emotional mind looks for reasons, and the easiest explanation is self-blame. But someone's inability or unwillingness to show up does not define your value. People walk away from good things every day, not because those things lacked value, but because they lacked the readiness, maturity, or courage to maintain them. There are people who don't know how to handle consistency, depth, or emotional presence. There are people who are uncomfortable with being needed or seen. There are people who run when something requires effort beyond convenience. Their silence isn't a response to who you are. It's a reflection of who they are at this stage of their life. When you internalize their absence, you take responsibility for something that was never yours to carry. The danger comes when you start trying to earn attention that should be given freely. You soften your boundaries, lower your expectations, and convince yourself that crumbs are enough because at least there's something. But shrinking yourself to fit into someone's limited capacity doesn't increase your worth. It just teaches you to abandon it. Attention that must be chased loses its meaning, and connection that requires self-erasure is not connection at all. Your worth existed before they noticed you, and it will remain long after they stop reaching out. It's not created by being chosen, and it's not destroyed by being overlooked. When someone fails to recognize your value, it doesn't mean the value isn't there. It means they weren't equipped to see it. And the moment you understand that, their silence loses its power to define you. Waiting feels harmless at first. It feels patient, hopeful, even loyal. You tell yourself that giving someone time is the mature thing to do. That understanding their silence shows strength. But waiting has a cost, and it's rarely paid up front. It's paid slowly, quietly, in the background of your life, while you're focused on someone who isn't showing up. Every day you wait, you pause your own forward movement, even if you don't realize it. The longer you wait, the more you suspend your emotional growth. You hesitate to open yourself fully to new possibilities because part of you is still holding space for someone who may never return in the way you need. You stay half available, half invested, living in a state of maybe. That uncertainty drains energy. It keeps your heart on standby. Walking away hurts, but waiting without clarity hurts longer, and it leaves fewer visible scars, which makes it easier to ignore. Waiting also slowly reshapes your self-perception. You start to measure time not by your own progress, but by their absence. Weeks become reminders. Months become questions. You check your phone not with excitement, but with expectation. And each time nothing happens, you absorb a small disappointment. Individually, they seem manageable. Together, they accumulate into emotional exhaustion. Walking away is a single conscious decision. Waiting is 1,000 silent compromises. There is also a loss of time that can never be recovered. While you're waiting for someone to decide, life continues moving forward. Opportunities pass, connections fade, growth stalls. Time is the one thing you cannot earn back, and giving it to someone who isn't investing in you equally is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Waiting doesn't guarantee a reward. It only guarantees that time will pass. People often say, "What if they come back?" But the better question is, what have you lost while waiting? Peace, confidence, momentum, sometimes even parts of yourself. Walking away doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you cared enough about yourself to stop paying a price for someone else's indecision. And once you see the true cost of waiting, staying no longer feels patient. It feels costly. Self-respect doesn't announce itself. It doesn't argue, chase, or demand to be understood. It shows up quietly in the choices you make when no one is watching. When someone goes months without reaching out, the instinct is often to fill the silence, to explain yourself, to ask for clarity, to remind them of your presence. But self-respect knows when words would only be used against you, when explanations would only invite more silence in return. Responding with self-respect means recognizing that you don't need closure from someone who chose absence. Their behavior already answered the question. Silence is not a conversation you have to participate in. You don't need to confront it, fix it, or soften it. Self-respect understands that chasing someone who has stepped back only shifts the power further away from you. Stepping back yourself restores balance. What makes self-respect so powerful is that it removes access without hostility. It doesn't punish, it protects. It says, if you cannot show up consistently, you no longer get the same place in my life. That boundary isn't meant to teach them a lesson. It's meant to teach you one. That your time matters. Your energy matters. Your emotional safety matters. And none of those should be offered to someone who treats them as optional. Self-respect also breaks the cycle of emotional negotiation. No more wondering when they'll reach out. No more checking your phone in anticipation. No more replaying old moments to justify current neglect. When you choose self-respect, you stop participating in uncertainty. You stop needing validation from someone who already demonstrated their limits. That freedom doesn't come from them changing. It comes from you deciding you've seen enough. There's a quiet dignity in not reacting, in not explaining, in not reopening doors that were closed through inaction. Self-respect doesn't seek the last word because it understands that peace is louder than any response. When you no longer beg to be chosen, you shift from wanting clarity to living it. And that shift changes everything without you having to say a single word. And here's the truth most people avoid. When someone goes months without reaching out, they're not leaving you in the dark. You're standing in the light, finally seeing things as they are. Not through excuses, not through hope, but through patterns. Through behavior, through silence that spoke every day it existed. This isn't about bitterness, it's about awareness. It's about realizing that love, respect, and connection don't require you to disappear to be valued. They don't ask you to wait indefinitely. They don't make you question your worth just to keep someone comfortable. Sometimes the lesson isn't in what they say when they return. It's in who you become when you stop waiting. And when you choose yourself, not loudly, not dramatically, but firmly, you don't lose them. You lose the illusion. And what you gain is far more valuable